Coming up on Bridge City News, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney announces a major investment for our province's agriculture industry, which he says will add over 8,000 jobs. A fire on the city's west side earlier today caused major damage to an apartment complex. And we hear from Julie Kissick from Streets Alive, who talks about how they're helping many of the homeless in our city.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Lethbridge firefighters were called out to a blaze on the west side earlier today. When they arrived just after 8 a.m., they saw the top portion of an apartment complex on fire on West Highlands Boulevard, not far from Save On Foods. The roof had apparently collapsed on one side of the building. All 4 stations responded to the blaze that impacted 36 units in the complex. One of the firefighters was taken to hospital and is in stable condition. Apparently, the fire began on a second-floor balcony and spread to the 3rd floor and attic of the building. An investigation as to what caused the blaze is underway. The Red Cross is also offering help to those who were displaced by the fire. If that's you or someone you know, call 1-888-800-6493. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney announced a major investment on irrigation infrastructure earlier today. Kenney says the agriculture sector contributes $9.2 billion to the provincial economy, and with Alberta's unemployment rate at 11.7%, we have to invest more into supporting our ag industry.
Today, we are announcing a combined investment of $815 million to modernize and build new irrigation infrastructure and to increase water storage capacity. In doing this, we estimate that we're going to create up to 1,300 immediate construction jobs with up to another 6,800 permanent, direct, and indirect jobs to follow. That's good news for Alberta.
Kenney says the province is looking at expanding irrigable land as well by up to 208,000 acres, boosting production and supporting diversification in the food industry. Alberta Premier Kenney also said today that his government will not be following Ontario's lead on imposing more COVID-19 restrictions. Kenney says the virus numbers in our province are still manageable, and any such moves would have a devastating impact on our economy.
And Alberta has done it extremely well on a global scale by taking a lighter approach to restrictions than many other jurisdictions that had vast lockdowns and aggressive enforcement and micromanaging people's lives. Many of those jurisdictions have seen much higher levels of infections and fatalities than Alberta has. We are focused on the health of the broader health, physical, mental, social, and economic, and that's why our focus, as much as possible, will continue to be on encouraging people to exercise responsibility rather than micromanaging their lives.
The Alberta Minister of Labour and Immigration, Jason Copping, made his way to Lethbridge today and the Umami Shop. He spoke with business owners about their lives as newcomers and the brand they've built up since moving to our city. As Micah Quinn explains now, government officials say they rely on newcomers to help sustain our economy.
Owners of the Umami Shop in Lethbridge met today with the Alberta Minister of Labour and Immigration, Jason Copping, and Lethbridge East MLA, Nathan Neudorf, to tour the shop and see how business is going now and into the future.
It was the first time I met the minister in person here at the shop, and I think he got a clear view of what we have accomplished over the last 7 years since we opened in 2013 and what our new goals are for the next upcoming 5 years.
Minister Copping says this trip's goal is to highlight businesses that are started by newcomers.
To be able to demonstrate the tremendous contributions that newcomers make to the Alberta economy, not only creating jobs for themselves, but also creating jobs for Albertans. And this is extremely important, especially right now with the recession. We have incredibly high unemployment, and part of our economic recovery plan is leveraging newcomers and entrepreneurs to help create businesses and create jobs here.
Neudorf says he's excited to show off the entrepreneurial attitude within the city as the group will make their way to a few other businesses today.
Doesn't matter where we go. I could have a list as long as my arm of all the businesses I'd love to show off. This is the one that just happened to work out for this trip, but just great individuals, really innovative, fantastic marketing. They're spreading their products not just in southern Alberta, but literally across Canada and around the world. So it's just really exciting to see their spirit and how this business has built up over years.
For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
A Lethbridge business was broken into recently. Lethbridge Tactical Supply was not only robbed, but the store itself also sustained major damage.
We got a phone call early Wednesday morning from a neighboring business that there was a broken window in our business. So we came to the business and found that our side door had been smashed open. There was shirts out in the street.
There was approximately $1,000 worth of items stolen, some of which are hard to come by during a pandemic.
Because of COVID, we're having a hard time getting items as it is. Some of these items had come in, we'd finally gotten them after 6 months. They were stolen, so it's not even a matter of replacing them. I don't even know if I can replace them or how long it's going to take to replace them.
Jorgensen posted to the store's Facebook page that morning, stating that the store would be closed that day due to the break-in. The response from the community was astounding.
Hundreds and hundreds of responses from community, just showing their support. We had businesses offering to help in any way they can. We had people offering to help clean up the mess for us. And it reached such a huge quantity of people. It was shared, I think, 150, 200 times. Over 20,000 people saw it. And it really, in a time where I was really, really having a really rough day, the support from the community was really heartwarming.
The culprit may have fled with some choice items, but he left behind excellent evidence. His DNA on a bloody sock.
The Lethbridge Police Service did an amazing job. I wasn't expecting the amount of evidence collection that they did for me, and I know that they're going to be working hard and hopefully with that evidence in the future. I know it's not going to be fast, but hopefully, somebody will come to justice for this. So,
for Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
Alberta Health Services notified the Lethbridge School Division that they have identified one case of COVID-19 at Victoria Park High School in Lethbridge. AHS has identified and notified all who were in close contact with the case. Close contacts were called and instructed to quarantine for 14 days. Meanwhile, yesterday, Alberta's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Henshaw, confirmed that the Good News Centre Church in Colehurst has 37 confirmed cases of the virus. Amid the upcoming Thanksgiving weekend and recent rise in cases in Lethbridge County, Reeve Lauren Hickey is reminding us to remain vigilant to slow the spread of the virus.
Just like to remind people this weekend, Thanksgiving holiday is coming up, and to be safe. Stay with your group of friends, your group of family. Don't get too many people involved in anything you're doing. If you're going to be indoors, make sure you observe the safety rules presented by the government, and that is not to have more than 15 people, and make sure you do not share drinks, share utensils, or anything like that. Be safe. Have a good holiday.
Alberta's top doctor wants people in Edmonton to voluntarily abide by new health measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Dr. Dina Henshaw says the number of cases in the province has climbed to its highest daily number, with a majority in Alberta's capital city. Alberta saw 364 new infections yesterday, with 276 of them in Edmonton. There are currently 1,329 cases in the Edmonton zone, 628 in Calgary, and 102 cases here in the South Zone. Not only have many provinces been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, but also a drug crisis. Now, here in Lethbridge, we've been dealing with similar issues of addictions and overdose deaths. Julie Kissick with the Streets Alive mission works with the homeless and many who are addicted to both methamphetamine and fentanyl on a daily basis. She says when the Lethbridge Overdose Prevention Society set up an unsanctioned tent in our city outside of the mobile injection site provided by the province, they're actually creating more harm than good.
I think that he should encourage the people to go to the proper OPS site, because they've got medical staff there, they've got social workers, they've got addiction workers, they've got everything set up there to help the person from point A to point B instead of just getting stuck at point A. So I think they're actually doing a disservice to the addicted population.
Catch the full interview with Julie Kissick and myself as we discuss how Streets Alive helps the most vulnerable in our city, coming up in the second half of our program. The University of Lethbridge achieved its highest ever position in the annual Maclean's University Rankings report. The university ranked second in Canada in the primarily undergraduate classification. Staff and students say a big part of the recognition comes from strong student encouragement and the undergraduate experience.
To see that it's still consistently high, especially in times like this, when in the times of COVID-19, when students now more than ever need those services, I think it's really great to see that we're still providing a lot for our students, and that that's being recognized by the larger community.
One of the things that really sets our institution apart, and which we're seeing in the rankings, is really this pairing of a desire and a commitment to create a great student experience with the focus on research, which is unique to undergraduate, primarily undergraduate universities. We're seeing our goals, our efforts come together with the metrics in important ways.
The U of L ranked 5th in the same category last year. With Thanksgiving coming up this long weekend, that means time with friends and family enjoying a nice turkey meal. The Nordbridge Senior Centre provided a drive-through event for members where they sold 321 turkey meals.
Yeah, so especially during COVID, we found this has been the biggest response we've ever had, just because of just of families being away and not wanting to get together because of COVID. So this is kind of a nice happy medium to do instead, and to see all of the seniors of Lethbridge and all of that. We just had a lot of volunteer help with this one, just because we had about 420 in total with our dine-ins and today. So I wanted to thank No Frills, Ken and Tony, for donating the turkeys for this event. And then we also had zucchinis donated from Interfaith Food Bank.
Current sense they will do a few more events like this in the near future, including a Christmas-style event. West Lethbridge had a brand new playground facility open today. Mayor Chris Spearman, alongside some local kids, cut the ribbon for a new play structure. The playground, which includes a zip line, also has elements that can be utilized by those with disabilities.
Well, we have to recognize that when we build a structure, we're not building it just for some people. This playground is for a variety of ages, and it's for a variety of children and residents of our community with a wide range of abilities. So we want to make sure that when we build a facility in the city of Lethbridge, that as many people as possible can benefit from it. People are more or less housebound, and their activities are very limited in terms of extracurricular. Having facilities where people can go outside and play, get fresh air, that is so important in terms of mental health. Being able to have the wind in your hair and be in the sunshine, it's tremendous, and you don't want people to be bored. There has to be something to do.
If you're looking to take the little ones out, the playground is located at 423 Caledonia Boulevard West. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic has many Canadians feeling anxious. He says it's important that we plan ahead now for what life will be looking like moving forward.
Well, I think part of Canadians' anxiety right now is not just for the short term of dealing with COVID-19. They need to know that once we're through it, and we will get through it, we're going to build back better. We're going to build a better future for Canadians. Canadians know, and we've known for a long time, that even as we deal with this crisis of COVID-19, we have to deal with the crisis of climate change. That's why we moved forward on a long-standing commitment to ban single-use harmful plastics. And Canadians know that they're ending up in our parks and our landfills in places and not being recycled. That's why we're keeping this commitment about moving forward and keeping plastic in our economy, but getting it out of the environment.
Conservative health critic Michelle Rempel-Garner is demanding more rapid testing kits for COVID-19. She says that quick results could help keep people safe and businesses open. Health Minister Patty Hajdu says tests that do not require labs are already in remote communities, but the technology behind mass rapid tests is not yet reliable enough.
Around the world, experts are using frequent COVID tests to provide results within 15 minutes to prevent business and school closures. But not in Canada. The Prime Minister has failed to get these rapid, easy-to-get tests, and it's possible that 33,000 restaurant workers in Toronto alone could lose their job in this second lockdown. We don't have job-saving rapid tests. Why?
We do have rapid tests in Canada. They're deployed in rural and remote communities, in areas where there are vulnerable populations and a fragile healthcare system. Mr. Speaker, we've also approved, Madam Speaker, apologize. We've also approved a number of rapid tests recently. As the member opposite knows, there is no one silver bullet to managing COVID-19 outbreaks. We'll be there for provinces and territories, and indeed restaurateurs, as they manage this new wave of COVID together.
James Bond, the Peanut Butter Falcon, and a Kajillionaire are making appearances in Lethbridge this weekend. With more, here's Len Binning with a Movie Mill Minute.
Kajillionaire Deborah Winger and Richard Jenkins are con artists who have spent 26 years raising their daughter to steal, swindle, and scam at every opportunity, until they bring on a stranger and it turns their lives upside down.
She learned to forge before she learned to write. No, actually, that's how she did learn to write.
My favorite movies are the Ocean 11 movies. This is exactly the kind of thing that I've been wanting.
So what do your parents do, hon? Hon, you've never called me that. But you could if it was a job, though, right?
Personal favorite of mine, The Peanut Butter Falcon from 2019 returns, starring Shia LaBeouf, alongside Zach, a character with Down syndrome who escapes from a nursing home.
I think it's time for us to go back now.
We could be a family.
Friends are the family you choose.
Wrestlers got alter egos. You need a name.
Falcon. Peanut Butter Falcon!
We are disappointed the new James Bond has been delayed, but we're bringing you Spectre. James Bond receives a cryptic message which sends him on a mission to Mexico and then to Rome.
Is this really what you want? Living in the shadows, hunting, being hunted, always alone.
I don't stop to think about it.
Looking forward to meeting up with Mr. Bond once again. We had a mixed bag today, sunshine then cloudy, and so far a nice Thanksgiving long weekend is shaping up. Full weather details are coming right up. It is so hard to believe that we're getting close to the middle of October and seeing such warm temperatures. The 20-degree-plus days, however, may be in the rearview mirror. Jeanette Rocher is here now with all of the weather details.
Partly cloudy skies tonight with a southwest wind gusting to 50 km per hour and an overnight low of 13 degrees. Not a bad long weekend in store for us. Saturday, mainly sunny skies with a high of 22 degrees. On Sunday, lots of sunshine as well, a high near 13. On Thanksgiving Monday, we could see clouds with a 30% chance of showers and a high of only 9. Tuesday, increasing clouds from sunshine throughout the day. High of 12 degrees, high of 14 expected on Wednesday with a mix of sun and cloud, and partly cloudy skies as well for Thursday with a high of 15 degrees. Now that almanac tells us that this time of year we should be expecting highs of around 16 degrees and lows of 2 degrees. Our high temperature on this day was back in 1943. It was 27 degrees, and our low temperature was -10. That was back in 1985. Sun rose this morning at 7:44 a.m. and our Friday evening sunset just before 7 p.m. 6:53 p.m. to be exact. Now taking a look at the forecast for Saturday across the country, both Victoria and Vancouver could see a 40% chance of showers tomorrow with a risk of thunderstorms. 30% chance of showers expected in both Edmonton and Calgary as well, with highs of 18 in Calgary and 16 in Edmonton. Looking at the rest of the prairies, not too bad though for Saskatoon. Lots of sunshine, high of 26. Could see a lot of wind there though. 24 is the high for Regina with lots of sunshine, and sunny skies also expected tomorrow in Winnipeg with a high of 15. Toronto could see a lovely 25-degree day with a mix of sun and cloud. Chance of showers and a risk of a thunderstorm in both Ottawa and Montreal with a high of 22 for both of those cities. Fredericton could see a 30% chance of showers. Same thing for Charlottetown with high of 17 there and 18 in Fredericton. 19 degrees is the expected high in Halifax with partly cloudy skies. Lots of wind gusts there too. St. John's, Newfoundland, high of 11 degrees with a 40% chance of showers.
Canada has higher than expected job gains last month as schools reopen and parents return to work. Stats Canada says the country added 378,000 jobs last month. That was more than double the 156,000 jobs that analysts on average had expected. That pushed the unemployment rate down to 9% from 10.2% in August. Employment is now 720,000 shy of pre-pandemic levels, but economists say the COVID-19 pandemic is threatening to upend the labor market recovery. Walmart Canada says it is hiring 10,000 people after announcing a $3.5 billion investment to drive growth. The positions will be in e-commerce, fresh food, merchandising, customer experience, warehouse, and drivers. The retail giant says the investment over the next 5 years will lead to the use of advanced technologies working alongside employees to move products as quickly as possible. Walmart says it will also provide a $300 bonus for full-time employees and $150 for both part-time and seasonal employees. Mountain Equipment says it will be closing fewer stores than expected following its takeover by Kingswood Capital Management. Officials say the U.S. private investment firm plans to keep 21 of its 22 stores open from the original plan of 17. The Vancouver-based company also says Kingswood plans to retain 85% of MEC's workforce, which is up from a minimum of 75%. MEC had just over 1,500 employees last month, with most of them being in BC and Ontario. Ottawa says it will provide more help to business owners affected by the pandemic to help them offset the cost of rent. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the revamped commercial rent relief program will cover up to 65% of eligible expenses for companies and up to 90% of those subject to localized lockdowns. The Liberals say they will also cover 65% of eligible wages through its subsidy program until the end of December. The initiative will also include a loan program providing an added $10,000 that could be forgivable. Stats Canada says the country added 378,000 jobs in September, bringing overall unemployment to within around 700,000 of levels prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Ontario Premier Doug Ford say both of their governments will be pitching in with close to $300 million to mass-produce electric vehicles and the batteries which power them at the Ford plant in Oakville, Ontario.
The Government of Canada, in partnership with the Government of Ontario and Ford Canada, is investing $1.8 billion to transition Ford's Oakville assembly plant into making zero-emission electric vehicles. The federal government will contribute $295 million towards this project, and the Government of Ontario will do the same.
With the combined contributions from Ford, Ottawa, and the province, today's announcement represents the largest investment in Ontario's auto sector in over 15 years. This is a historic moment. This will support and protect our auto sector's Made in Ontario advantage. And it will help support good-paying jobs for Ontario families and workers for years to come.
Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 28 points on the day to finish at 16,562. The Dow was up 161 points to 28,586. The S&P 500 was up 30 points to 3477, and the Nasdaq was up 158 points to 11,579. West Texas Intermediate oil was down 67 cents to $40.52 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 14 cents to $2.76. Gold was up 36.58 to 19.3040 US an ounce, and silver was up $1.32 to 25.15 US an ounce. Wheat is at $255 per metric ton, barley's at $249, canola's at $4.92, and corn is at $269 per metric ton. Live cattle were down 3 cents to $112.60, feeder cattle were down 93 cents to $135.53, and lean hogs were up 28 cents to $67.13. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to 76.25 US.
Today's market numbers are brought to you by The Meat Box, your local butcher where quality matters.
Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Lethbridge firefighters were called out to a blaze on the west side earlier today. When they arrived, just after 8 a.m., they saw the top portion of an apartment complex on fire on West Highlands Boulevard, not far from Save-On Foods. The roof had apparently collapsed on one side of the building. All 4 stations responded to the blaze that impacted 36 units in the complex. One of the firefighters was taken to hospital and is currently in stable condition. Apparently, the fire began on a second-floor balcony and spread to the 3rd floor and attic of the building. An investigation as to what caused the fire is underway. Streets Alive Mission in Lethbridge just celebrated their 30th anniversary. Congratulations. Coming up, an interview with the ministry's co-founder, Julie Kissick, who has an update as to the help they're offering those who are most vulnerable in our city. That interview is on deck. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. Something new for anime fans. Every weekend, Nikayuko Japanese Garden is hosting an Anime Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Watch videos on anime creation in the pavilion and learn fun trivia about your favorite anime characters. For more information, visit nikayuko.com. The Juno Beach Centre is Canada's only museum in Normandy dedicated to honoring the contributions of 1.1 million men and women who served during World War II. This year, support a worthy cause and take part in the Remembrance Day races being held until November 28th. You can register for one of 3 virtual race distances, each with its own special meaning. Participants will receive a race kit that includes a commemorative medal, a Juno Beach collector coin, a bracelet, and more. For details and to register, visit junobeach.org. Get to know your city and take part in the Lethbridge Scavenger Hunt. Download the Let's Roam Scavenger Hunt app, lace up your walking shoes, and head out with family to discover the best landmarks in Lethbridge. Put your navigation skills to the test while enjoying the journey at your own pace. No reservations, no tour guides, and fun for all ages. Visit letsroam.com/scavenger hunt. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
Streets Alive mission has been making a big difference here in our community for over 30 years. The amazing ministry helps many of our homeless in our community, including those with addictions. They feed them, clothe them, and help them get on their feet in a very big way. Joining me to talk about it is the co-founder of Streets Alive mission, Julie Kissick. Welcome back to Bridge City News, Julie.
Well, thank you, Hal. Good to be here.
So 30 years, 3 decades, does it feel like it?
Well, my hair says it's been 30 years, but it hasn't felt like 30 years at all for me. I look back at 30 years and it feels like just a short span of time because I love what I do. We absolutely love what we do. We feel called to do what we do. And so when you get up every morning and you love doing what you're doing, it does not feel like drudgery. It doesn't feel long.
You know, a few years ago, you took me on a tour of Streets Alive inside, and it really touched my heart in a big way. You showed me this mural with a lot of the clients on the mural. You knew the backstory. You know all about their lives. You remember their names, and most of those people had passed away. Mm-hmm. And I remember you had tears in your eyes as well at that moment.
Oh, some of those people became very important to us.
It's like family, right?
And they become like family because you do know them so well, and because you bury their children and you bury their parents and you bury all their aunties and uncles, and you hold them when they cry and you celebrate when they're having a good day, and they're just like our family.
Now, during the lockdown, Streets Alive did not close the doors but kept them open to help those who were desperately in need. How was that received in the community?
I think it was received really well. We were one of the few places that was open for them to come into, but one of the important things is that we trustee their money, and so nobody wants to separate anybody from the funds that they have, number one, and they still need clean clothes, and they still need a sandwich, and they still need a phone, and they still need to have that connection with people.
So what protocols, Julie, did you and Ken put in place at Streets Alive to protect yourselves, your volunteers, and your clients from COVID-19?
Well, here's the funny thing. We were told we had to use a lot of hand sanitizer, but they drink it. So
wow.
The first thing we did is
because the alcohol content, I guess, in there, right?
Sure. And now they come in Mickeys and 40s and stuff like that, so it's like very attractive. But we opened up a hand washing station, we opened a bathroom, took the toilet out, and just nobody could have any kind of a service unless they wash their hands. And of course, the staff is masked, and we offer masks to all of the clientele that come through the door. So if they want to access our service, they have to wash up their hands and wear a mask.
Now, one of the branches of your ministry is the new Segway Women's House. What is your real vision for this home?
How much time do you have?
Well, we've got another 10
another
minutes
47
or so.
seconds.
Yeah.
The vision that I have for this home is to have a place for women who have nowhere else to go. I was volunteering in the jail right up until COVID, and time after time women would be leaving my chapel service crying because they had nowhere to go except back to their old situation. And they come out of detox, they have nowhere to go but back to the old situation or treatment, back to the old situation. And I wanted to be able to offer them an alternative until they were healthy enough to maybe even face the old situation. And so it's imperative when we help people in recovery that they have a home. They have to have a roof. If you don't have a roof, you don't have the opportunity to recover. If you don't have a bed, if you don't have 3 squares, you have no opportunity to recover. So,
how do you get that message across to a lot of your clients that you have to change your surroundings, you have to change your bad habits, and even some of the people you hang out with, which is very difficult for a lot of people, especially if they've been on the streets with a lot of these other people they call friends, right?
It's a challenge. It's a challenge to help them get to that place where they're able to say goodbye, because we could force it, but we all know the law kills. Or we could talk to them, and through the programming and instruction and perspective change, they get to the place where they kind of go, hey, you're unhealthy and toxic for me, so I'm going to actually choose not to be with you. And when they get to that point, that's a powerful point in their life.
And don't you have some staff or volunteers that help out that maybe went through the program, that were homeless or addicted at one point in time?
Oh yeah, we're up to armpits in them. Yeah, and now, like through COVID, we still continue to do our supportive housing, and the men and the women who were in the housing were just so grateful that they had a job to do while we went through that, and they became the big supporters of people that were coming to all the services. They were just like, hey, I made it, you can make it. I've done this for 6 months, you can do it for 6 days, and it's just been amazing.
Now, Streets Alive is a ministry, very similar to what we have here at the Miracle Channel. How do you integrate God and Christ's saving grace into the discussion when it comes to helping people off the street?
Well, I think that we're fortunate in that people know we are a Christian mission. And so there's a certain expectation that Christianity is going to come out of our mouth. They have an expectation when I sit up beside them and I'm like, hey, can I pray for you? They expect that. And then they always say yes. And my prayer is always that God would touch their heart with his love so that they could have hope to change. Because love changes everything.
Let's talk a bit about Segway Women's Home once again. Now, an online housewarming for the home is taking place. What kind of a response have you gotten from the community on that?
Probably not as big as I had hoped. I think things have been kind of confusing with the registry that we picked. So now we're just going out there and saying, give us money or give us stuff. We need everything a home could need. It's got, it's going to be 20 beds, but it's got 8 bathrooms. It's got 3 laundry rooms, it has 2 kitchens, and it has 13 bedrooms.
Any nurseries as well?
No nurseries, no,
Okay,
no,
right.
that's the next step.
Okay,
Single
gotcha.
moms, that'll be our next step. Come on, Hal, give me a chance here. We haven't even got
How about
to this
beanbag
step.
chairs and lava lamps? Would you accept those?
Lava lamps all day long.
Oh, I love
Beanbag
that.
chairs, no.
Okay.
No.
When are you hoping to open?
Well, we're hoping to open December 1. But it's been a problem for the construction because COVID slowed down everything, including the ability to get materials, the ability to have enough people on site to get the work done. I just got notified this week that my furniture is delayed. So there's all kinds of delays that are happening. You want tile, it's delayed, flooring. Yeah. So December 1, in Jesus' name, December 1.
So a lot of people in the community making donations to help out. And
You know, through COVID, this community has been tremendous. What a tremendous community. They've just given, and I know that a lot of them are hurting. But we've got people come in with just a set of towels, or we got people come in with $25, buy what you need, and coffee pots, and sheets, and bedding, and all that other kind of stuff. So we have a really generous community. I'm pretty proud of our community.
so, Julie, what's needed right now?
Besides money?
Yeah, well, we could always use money, right?
Yeah, we
But
can
I mean,
always
how about
use
clothing?
money.
Winter's just around the corner.
Hoodies. For Streets Alive, hoodies. We always need jeans. No matter how many times we get jeans, they disappear like that. When you think that we might serve 25 to 40 people per day, that's 25 to 40 pairs of pants, shirts, socks, underwear. So we're always out of underwear. We don't like secondhand underwear. We like fresh, clean underwear. Walmart has a great deal, just throw that out there. We always need hoodies so they can layer up. We always need jeans, usually men's 30 to 34.
Socks?
Socks all day long
Right.
because they get to change their socks every day. We can't change their shoes every day, but we can change their socks every day.
What about gloves and tubes and
Gloves,
scarves?
that's coming up,
right?
but
Yeah.
probably we're not giving them out yet because the weather's too warm still. But once the weather gets cold, yeah, I think last year we went through 6,000 or 7,000 pairs of gloves.
The government likes to keep tabs on numbers, like Stats Canada. 30 years, how many clients do you think you have served with Streets Alive?
A lot? I don't know. It's just a lot. It's been a
How
lot.
many would you average a day, through the programs?
But through the programs and the trusteeship, about 150 a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you're also developing an 8-plex home for men.
Yeah, excited.
What are some of the needs there?
Everything. We need everything there. We do have a fair amount of furniture because we've been collecting furniture with our warehouse. And so we let agencies have their first pick of everything, and then we have enough to probably be able to share a little bit into that 8-plex. But same thing, we don't have dishes, bath towels, tea towels, laundry soap, cushions, Chesterfields, chair, like everything. We need everything. And it's an 8-plex, and each plex has 2 bedrooms. So that's 16 bedrooms that we have to furnish. So 16 lava lamps, folks.
That's a lot of lava lamps.
That's a lot of lava lamps.
And beanbag chairs. I love
And
that.
beanbag chairs.
Julie, the supervised consumption site at Arches shut down after the province did its audit, the $1.6 million in funds that weren't accounted for, so the province shut it down. Now the province instituted a mobile SES by the soup kitchen in Lethbridge here. Is the province doing enough to help a lot of those who are addicted?
It's not called an SCS anymore. It's called an opioid prevention site.
Right.
And so the SCS allowed all kinds of different drug use, whereas the OPS is intravenous drug use. Okay. So that's probably narrowed the field a little bit. I have an opinion regarding intravenous drug use. I pretty much keep it to myself because
This is the forum, come on.
I've seen too many dead people.
Okay.
I've seen too many people die from putting poison in their veins, but I understand the concept of it.
So how do you feel about people like Tim Slaney, used to work at Arches with the Lethbridge Overdose Prevention Society, putting up these pop-up tents at Galt Gardens, down by the Civic Center, the field?
I think that,
they're unsanctioned.
I think that he should encourage the people to go to the proper OPS site because they've got medical staff there, they've got social workers, they've got addiction workers, they've got everything set up there to help the person from point A to point B instead of just getting stuck at point A. So I think they're actually doing a disservice to the addicted population.
Let's talk about for a moment the importance of providing a safe place for people as they go through recovery. Tell me a bit about that, how important that is.
It is so important that it is safe, but also that it is structured. There has to be a purpose while they're living this that safe existence. So we do a lot of psychoeducational stuff, we do a lot of 12-step stuff, we do boundary work, we do all the work that is necessary for them to be able to find their own place of safety after they've been safe with us. So that's our goal, is like recovery is real, we've seen it, it works, and we know how to help people get to point B.
Julie, do you in Canada Streets Alive see a lot of transient people coming in from other towns or cities, or is it mostly local, people here in southwestern Alberta?
Well, we saw, a year or so ago, we saw a fairly significant influx from other centers, and part of it was the SES.
Like other centers, meaning from Calgary?
Yeah,
or?
we saw lots of different people, because we would see they would come in for clothing. We would like, where are you from? What's your name? So we saw all these strange people we didn't know come into the building. And we've also seen lately that some of them have transitioned back, possibly to old stomping grounds or whatever, so.
Let's talk about some of the victories that you've seen as well, involving your clients. I mean, we mentioned some of them before who went on to become volunteers or work with you here at Streets Alive, but just some of those tremendous victories.
One or two of the victories that I think of right away is one lady who came to us out of detox, so she'd only been, detoxed for 7 days, and we put her in the house and she stayed with us for 2 years. So the first year she worked her way through all of our programming, and the second year she started at the university taking her social working and addictions degree. And by the time she left, she was already a year into that degree, going strong, stable, able to function and do really well. I'm in contact with women who have exited the housing and are back working in their jobs. They've got their kids back working with their kids. So I hear from a lot of the people that have exited the program in a healthy and safe way. We do have some that exit in a not very healthy and safe way, but we do have a significant amount that still stay in touch, and they've gone on to live the lives that they had hoped they could have.
I've chatted with some members of the Lethbridge Police Department here, and they say a big issue right now when it comes to the drugs, it's not so much fentanyl, but it's methamphetamine.
Meth.
Are you seeing that as well?
Well, about 10 years ago, we saw a huge increase in meth, and back then, the people called it meth bridge. Like, I know it's just been coined within the last year or two, but we heard it 10 years ago, this is meth bridge. We saw people transition from pills and alcohol and stuff into meth. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we watched them transition their meth to take it intravenously. So yeah, meth is the key drug in our city.
Now, you talked about opioids as well, do you have naloxone kits there too? Of course. You have to have lots of those on hand?
Yeah, on hand and with our outreach team.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, we've just contracted to have a special counselor come into Streets Alive to help them decompress from overdoses. And it was worse about a month ago, but still they have to be able to have somewhere where they can start to talk about somebody just coming back to life and taking a swing at them.
Wow. What kind of training do your volunteers have to go through in order to be able to handle a lot of what they're seeing?
I wish I could remember the term, but our operations director, he does a non-violent intervention course that he runs with our staff like every year or every 6 months, however he sees that needs to happen, so that we learn not to engage up close and personal, but how to de-escalate situations. So, but I'll say with meth, it's hard.
I can imagine.
They're just so amped up on the speed, and that sometimes they don't even hear your voice.
Wow.
So the best time for us to reach out to them is when they're starting to come down off the meth, and yeah.
So in your opinion, how can we curtail a lot of the drug use in our city and keep the drugs out of our city?
You know, we've had a lot of people say, how can we get drugs out of our city? Well, they tried prohibition with the alcohol, and we all know how that worked. Everything went underground. And I think that the drug use is with us until the end of time, because there are always going to be people who are hurt and looking for an anesthetic. And
they're trying to fill that void.
And they're trying
not with
to fill
God,
that,
but with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, they have. They don't know how to go to God. They don't know how to accept His love and let that love work with them, because that's a slow process, and they want the fast process. They want the drug that's going to just take a hold of them, make them feel better instantly. So
quick fix.
It is, and it's a powerful fix. Wow. So for people to just say, well, just stop using, it is just not that easy.
Julie Kissick, co-founder of Streets Alive Mission here in Lethbridge, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Throughout generations, people have probed the Holy Scriptures in search of meaning, purpose, solace, and forgiveness. It's also the ultimate source of timeless leadership principles. Joining me now to talk about it is Joe Turnham, the Economic Development Director for East Alabama, also author of the book Leading from Our Knees. Joe, welcome to Bridge City News.
It's great to be with you, Hal.
Now, do you think our recent challenges in both your country in the U.S. and here in Canada have caused us to really look at leadership a little bit differently?
Without question. And I think, most people think successful leadership breeds peace and tranquility, but often it doesn't. And I think leading amidst chaos and destruction and pandemic and economic calamity is probably one of the greatest challenges of leadership. And I think it rattles the faith of those who count on their leaders to solve problems. And many times these problems are beyond the scope of simple solutions. And that's when we measure leadership with a little different yardstick, as you would say.
Or here in Canada, meter stick, that's right. Now, do we expect a little too much from those who lead us? Our mayors, our premiers, governors, like south of the border? What do you think?
Hal, I don't think we expect too much of them. I do think that perhaps we are maybe overconfident or over demanding in what we think the results can be from leadership. We talk about in the book a little bit that many times leadership is not making a good or a bad choice, but making the lesser choices that hurt the fewest or perhaps give us a chance for hope. And I think in these days that we have to allow leaders to make a few mistakes, because they will make mistakes, and many times they're making important measurements of do we reopen society at a risk of increasing infections, or do we let people lose jobs or get people sick? And these are not easy decisions for leaders. And I think that people sometimes can get cruel and partisan when leaders don't make decisions that they totally agree with, when in fact, if we're constituents of faith, that's when we need to ramp up prayers, and we need to hope that our leaders are getting good advice. In the scripture, leaders and kings and judges, they relied on prophets and advisors, and so I think that we have to look for our leaders to be getting the best advice that they can get in these days.
Joe, as the Economic Development Director for East Alabama, what have you seen in your present or past work with pastors, heads of state, or community leaders?
Well, that every leadership situation sometimes is situational. And I think a lot of leaders are in situations they've never been in before. I mean, in economic development, we have massive job losses. We have things are getting personal. Places with very high economic standards, people are going to food banks. So you have to recalculate. I think you look more internally. You know, no person is left behind. You have to kind of recalibrate how you make decisions and how you prioritize decisions. I know economic developers are looking to, you know, sometimes instead of recruiting, we have to rescue, and I think that's been a big focus. And I think as pastors or leaders of faith, we have to look at maybe not giving the solutions, but giving hope and getting in the right direction, the right frame of mind, so that we can come out the other end of this situation that we're in.
Hey, Joe, sometimes there are no right answers to complex challenges. How do effective leaders really navigate times of uncertainty?
Well, I think that good leaders exemplify humility, that sometimes the issues are beyond them. They reach out for help. They admit mistakes. They're able to change direction. There's nothing wrong in leadership with changing directions. If a policy or perhaps the situations change, leaders can change. And I think asking those that follow you, whether you're an elected official or whether you're just a community leader, that, hey, we need to recalibrate today. We need to change directions. Maybe we got the data wrong. I think those are the kinds of changes that people appreciate leaders making in these days.
Biblical leaders were far from perfect, Joe. We all know that. Why does God often choose people who seem the least likely people to lead?
Well, it's throughout the scriptures. I mean, you look at, you know, whether people were grinding grain or whether they were fishermen or whether they were tending sheep. I mean, God plucked out people of really modest means that never went to leadership school. And the leaders of today, sometimes their job is not to lead for a long time, but to lead through a certain situation. And I think leaders make mistakes. I mean, David was a man after the heart of God, but you know, he numbered Israel. He committed adultery. He was an accessory even to murder, but he became a man after God's own heart. And the brothers of Joseph sold him into slavery and deprived their own flesh and blood of opportunity. And in the end, Joseph, when he's dying, looks around. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." So, you know, I think leaders today, we need to pray for them, but I think also we need to allow good leaders to make some mistakes.
So in your opinion, then, what are some of the core attributes that make for a good leader?
Humility. Always look for humility. I think in leaders that have a heart of love and service, and you can discern that in the way that they conduct themselves. And you know, we say here in the Deep South, where I'm from, that we want leaders that will be cross bearers and not crown wearers. That people that seek to do leadership because they know it's a duty, a lift. It oftentimes brings you under scrutiny and burdens. People that run for office, or people that want the trappings of success or influence, or that need the affirmation of power, are usually people that I know will not last or be effective leaders. But a good thing is always humility and people that even have a sense of humor, that are able to be self-deprecating, because I think in leadership that it will overwhelm anyone. It doesn't matter if you're leading at the local or the national level. And I think that leaders also that seek the right advice, and leaders that have that heart for service. And I think it bleeds through everything they do and say.
You talk about being from the Deep South. I can hear that strong Southern accent. When I speak with you, can you hear my strong Canadian accent?
I can. It's very beautiful.
Okay. Why do you feel a real kinship with many of the characters and situations in the Bible?
You know, I have been a political candidate. I've won some races, lost some races. I have been on the edge of disaster. I have met kings, queens, leaders, presidents over many administrations, and have been almost driven to my knees and in trying to understand leadership. And you know, the Holy Spirit spoke to me to write this particular book because I think leadership is lonely. leadership can destroy families. I've seen many people get destroyed financially, legally, and otherwise being in leadership. And so I felt like God wanted me to take these lessons of Scripture and offer them to people, because we're all leaders, and if we're people of faith, God will call us to leadership. Jonah didn't want to judge the people. Are you going to go to Nineveh or Tarshish? He didn't want to go in the right direction. But if you're a person of faith and God calls you to lead, He will pursue you until you answer that call. So, I think all of us at some point in faith will be called, whether it's to lead in our own families, which is the greatest leadership calling of anyone, to leading at in a network in Canada, or leading, a group of scouts. I mean, I think leadership, we're all blips of eternity. And I think, every action that we do will be measured in the fire of heaven. And I think that when we do things in the right heart and the right mind, and we love each other and we seek forgiveness. And I think in the United States today, we're seeking to understand. Daniel in the Old Testament set his heart to understand. And I think that leaders today, whether they, and you ask me a quality of a great leader, is leaders that want to understand and hear the opposing voices, and bring people to the banquet that have never sat there and hear their perspective. And I think for us to heal, especially in America these days, love, listening, learning, humility, finding places of where we can agree and de-escalate. That's when I think the Holy Spirit begins to work through situations.
Now, in each of your 365 entries, you provide a verse from the Bible and a takeaway lesson. Can you maybe cite an example or two?
Sure. I mean, the title of the book, Leading from Our Knees, is actually from the book of Luke, and it's Christ setting the example of leadership. And it was Christ went into a mountain one night to pray, and it says he prayed all night. And when he descended from the mountain, he chose his 12 apostles. Big decision he had to make. Son of God, creator of heaven and earth. What does he do? He prays over his decisions. And I think that's a big takeaway. And the book is a read through scriptures from Genesis to Revelation, and we can see from the prophets and the prophetesses and the disciples and apostles, but Christ himself. He knew when to cleanse the temple and when to be quiet in front of a Pilate. And he can show us in our leadership journeys today how to lead a holy life and a holy leadership journey.
Jesus provided the best example of leadership, Joe. What do you see as some of the qualities that Jesus had and demonstrated that we rarely see in our leaders today?
Well, Jesus knew what his mission was, and he knew that that was going to be a lonely leadership journey. He knew he was going to be tempted. Leaders are tempted, and he went to the temple. Satan probably didn't offer him. Satan probably said, "There'll be no more plagues. There'll be no more death. There'll be no more tears if you follow me." And in Christ, that was a hard decision, but he quoted the scriptures. He knew the scriptures, and I think Christ also he loved people into the fold, but he also knew that leadership. There's nothing wrong with telling people of faith that there will be suffering in your journey. I mean, I also believe in prosperity and that people of faith can be rewarded by following the word of God. But if we are called to leadership, we will suffer. And Christ was a suffering servant. And I think that, I have not seen nor ear heard, nor has ever entered into the heart of any man the things that God has prepared for those that love him. And I think that if we as people of faith in this earthly journey and this leadership journey that many of us are given, if we will keep our eyes on the eternal prize, and that if we will love others as we love ourselves, and we forgive 7 times 7, and that God will lift us up and he will use us in the things that we do. And Christ is the perfect example of that.
Joe, can a person be a good leader and yet be an unbeliever?
Absolutely. And, I think that there's certain principles of leadership. I mean, you don't have to be a person of faith necessarily to be humble or to be caring or to love. But we also understand that the kings and queens and princes and presidents are but the footstool of God. And many times, we leaders think that they're affecting the outcome of eternity, but God orders the steps. I think he orders the steps of the faithful. I think he orders the steps of unbelievers. He's the God of all circumstances. So yeah, sure. I think that anyone is used in leadership, and people can have the right heart, not necessarily know the heart of God.
So what advice would you offer parents about their own role in leadership within their families?
Be available. Listen. Find times to put the electronics down, to do the simple things, to take out grandma's recipe. I think, in the quarantine here in the United States, I feel that it was God's gift to us to have to spend time with families. We're not on planes, trains, automobiles. We're forced to be together. That teenager that we can't have a discussion with, there are times that God's opened the door to have that walking down the street, or perhaps pierce the heart of a relative that is astray. And so, let's look at the tough times that we faced with the pandemic as almost opportunities. And I really believe, even here in North America, where we're having great social disturbance, that it could be a setup for a huge spiritual awakening in our country, where love and forgiveness and understanding and a search for justice and mercy prevail all that we do. Just as the genocide in Rwanda forced people, Hutus and Tutsis, to sit down and to understand, how can this happen? How can we heal? How can we confess? How can we make it better? And, sometimes a setback is a setup for God to work great miracles.
So how do you hope readers will use your book, Leading from Our Knees, and what kind of takeaways will there be for non-leaders?
Well, I think they're timeless principles. You can read the Christian texts, and they, they're about, love and being accountable, and there are a lot of great principles there, just as there are in many faiths, in Buddhism and Islam and other religions. But I think if you look at it, that you will see that many of timeless principles that many generations have seen from great leaders are really in the Old and New Testaments of the Judeo-Christian texts.
Joe Turnham, author of the book, Leading from Our Knees, thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you, Hal. God bless.
On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.